Stage 1, pressing for flight.
We're go for launch. Let's light this candle.
Yes, sir. Reading you loud and clear. Clear. The clock has started. The clock has started.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
And welcome to Pressing for Flight, live from the Space Coast, where the schedule never holds. I'm your host, Stephen Marr, and with me this evening, on the day after the 9-year anniversary of the last shuttle mission, I have Stephen, Mr. Kegel.
Hi, everybody.
I have Matthew, Mr. Cutshall.
What up, everybody?
And Matthew, Mr. Jordan.
Good day, mates.
And Becca, Mr. Penland.
Hi.
Where's your microphone?
It's right here.
You hold on to that. Or you sit in your
I
car.
will.
Like a
I will
bad
not
girl.
let go.
So, as you guys have probably noticed, that every once in a while, Becca has to miss the show because she's working. And so tonight, it worked out where I guess she's got someone there to cover inside the place that she works, and there's no way you guys could possibly guess where that is. So that she could go out in her car and be with us this evening. So
That's the level of dedication I have.
yeah, that's right.
It's a nice hat, too.
Thank you.
I used to have one of those.
I got this at a thrift store.
So yesterday is that anniversary, and I like how you've got Doug Hurley and Chris Ferguson right there, the two commanders of Dragon and Starliner, right there up front. And Doug just happens to be,
suit.
huh? Yeah, the old
I miss
pumpkin
the
suit.
pumpkin suit.
And Doug just happens to be up there right now. I think that's super cool. I'm guessing several other people made that connection, but I didn't, that he would be up there on the 9-year anniversary of the last shuttle flight. So that's pretty cool. As many of you probably know, Rocket Lab has suffered their first failure in operation. They had some test flights. Actually, the first 2 test flights went great, didn't they? They didn't have a single issue. So this is their first failure at all.
First failure on this specific rocket. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess it was just on the second stage where it failed.
Yeah, it was a second stage failure too, which is kind of odd.
Well, it made it up there and just, I don't know what happened after that. Haven't they released anything?
Well, they have. Well, they've released a statement, and they've said that the teams are, working quickly to try to figure out what it was. I wanted to show the part where it kind of happened, where if anybody was watching the stream live, if you're paying close attention, you may have noticed that something was going wrong, because the video does freeze up, and that just happens sometimes. We've seen on a Falcon 9 launch on the webcast, every once in a while, it'll cut away and it'll just have like the Falcon 9 logo up on the screen or whatever, because it'll say something like downlink disrupted or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So they're having issues with the video. I don't know if that has anything to do with their failure, but this, to me, I've always wondered if these numbers in the top right, if those are actual live numbers that are coming out of the computers, right? Or if they're, well, we know for sure now, because let's see, if I skip ahead, where was it? It was like right around in here. Okay, yeah, here. I'll back up a little bit more. So you can see that the speed has stopped increasing, and actually now they're starting to slowly accelerate, and their altitude is dropping. And that was kind of everybody's first indication that there was a problem. The stream kept going, and I really feel bad for the host that he had to. This guy right here, he had to continue as if everything was kind of okay, but you can tell, and that altitude drop is accelerating while the speed is picking up, and obviously that's not from the engine firing, because that number goes up way faster when the engine's firing. So now
you see, like, you're starting to see a lot of movement in that mission controller. Everyone's like,
yeah, oh yeah, you can see him. Like this guy down here, he's like looking over, like, what is that?
It's the uh-oh face.
Yeah.
Ruh-roh.
So yeah, if you're ever watching a webcast, this is kind of something I learned. I wasn't able to watch this live. It was going on, and whenever I happened to be in my car, I would have it running. That was the day that it was just storming like insane, and it took about 2.3 seconds for me to be completely soaked every time I stepped out of my car.
Yeah, it was 4th of July.
Yeah, me and
It
Kiko
was
were
4th of
watching
July.
in his garage.
I was watching. I had it on the big screen in the garage.
Yeah.
But I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, we had no idea. It looked like it was going just fine. We had everybody.
Yeah.
Xavier and everybody was just watching the launch.
Well, my first indication was I'm in. A lot of y'all probably know about this. It's the Space Coast Launch Ambassadors, and we have a Discord, and everybody just talks about launch stuff. And somebody messaged in there, RIP Electron, and I'm just like, no. So I pulled up the stream and let it play through, and on the stream there was no indication of what happened. They were just kind of sticking with, we're still getting telemetry and whatever, good data. And then of course they ended the stream, and then that's when Rocket Lab actually tweeted out. And later on, just a few hours later, I was very impressed. Peter Beck released this statement.
To our customers, partners, and the entire Rocket Lab team, and all of our supporters out there, it's fair to say that today was a pretty tough day. During today's mission, late into the flight and after a successful liftoff, first stage burn, and stage separation, we experienced an issue on the way to orbit that caused the complete loss of the vehicle and unfortunately the payloads. To our customers, we are deeply sorry for the loss of those payloads. Believe me, we feel and we share your disappointment. However, we will leave no stone unturned to figure out exactly what happened today so that we can learn from it and get back to the pad safely. Electron is one of the most frequently launched rockets in the world today, and after 12 consecutive launches to space, today's issue is a reminder that spaceflight can be very unforgiving. It's certainly a day we never wanted to experience, but one we had prepared for. Electron followed a safe re-entry trajectory within the safety corridor, causing no harm to personnel or property. We're working closely with the FAA to investigate the anomaly and identify its root cause, and correct any issues to move forward. I have to say, I'm incredibly proud of the way the teams responded with professionalism today. Already as I speak, they're combing through the data to learn and prepare for the next mission. We have many Electron launch vehicles in production, and we're ready for a rapid return to flight as soon as these investigations are complete, and of course all the corrective measures are in place. We look forward to getting back to the pad very soon. Thank you for everybody's support.
I want to touch his hair. It looks so fluffy.
I got to say that I was really impressed that they were being so open about it, so that's good on them. And also that, like, I wasn't sure that YouTube video was going to still be there. You know how, like, when you exit a live stream, sometimes you can't find it on the list. So what I did is I copied the link and emailed it to myself and hoped that it would still be there today. And lo and behold, it was. So, I mean, man, a lot of respect to those guys. It sucks that, now they're going to be grounded until they figure out what the problem was. But, maybe being a tiny rocket means that it is easier to find the problem.
As Elon said, I think he said it to them.
Yeah.
Rockets are hard.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of phallic jokes after that.
Elon and Tory both tweeted to the guy who was just talking,
Peter,
and basically said, this stuff is tough. You guys are going to get this. It was really interesting to see the competition saying, "Hey, man, you got this. You got this." It just shows the level of camaraderie these different companies do have with one another, even though they might be in a competition for the same pool of money. They still feel for each other, and they're still, because aerospace, it's typically been a very small community, and it's kind of just growing exponentially at this point. But just there is camaraderie there that you just don't see in a lot of other places.
Yeah, and I think it's such a small group that has made it to orbit that I think you can't help but have respect for them, even if they are a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
So Scott Manley posted this graph. Unfortunately, he did not include a time scale, but I guess he took the numbers like straight off the stream, and you can see constant thrust, and then it started to decay over time, and then it dropped to nothing. But this indicates to me, and I don't know what this time scale is, but it drops fairly quickly. But honestly, that doesn't tell us much. It doesn't tell me much. I mean, people like actually, I should have looked. Scott Manley may already have a video out about this.
It tells me that gravity works.
Gravity does work. Although no, this is this is a thrust profile. This isn't an altitude.
I mean, it did fall and burn up.
It did, yeah. It did.
As long as it's thrust, it's going to fall.
Oh, Daryl said that Arianespace pulled their Vega stream after a while last year, but it's back. Harry said, yeah, Scott Manley did. Yeah, so he's talking about Vega had a failure last year, I guess. In fact, they're trying to get do their return to flight, which there was kind of an odd thing when they were going for their return to flight. Like the webcast hadn't started and they weren't saying anything, and then finally they tweeted out like after the launch time had passed that they had scrubbed due to weather. Maybe it was before, but it was definitely after the webcast should have started. So that was kind of odd. Arianespace, be more like Rocket Lab, because the fans are going to be the ones, like, you're going to get a lot of free publicity out of the fans if you're open and honest with them. Because the fans of spaceflight totally understand scrubs and failures and all the hard things that go along with spaceflight. And if you're open and honest with the fans, they'll support you.
Yeah,
I need
you
to
earn
order
their
me a
respect
hat now.
that way.
Yeah, and maybe they don't care. I mean, we're not paying them, but we are spreading the word for them. Why do you think?
I mean, Arianespace is an arm of the EU, so they've already got their target market in mind.
Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of I would say that a lot of it's hard to say how much of like SpaceX's success has come because of them appealing to fans, and getting support. Now, you can say that when you get a lot of people liking your space company, then those are people that would possibly vote in such a way that will get representatives that would, help with that industry and then help you. What up, Zach? Let's see. Daryl said Arianespace was pretty open, T plus 9 minutes, and they were already addressing the crowd. I don't know if that's a joke. T plus 9 minutes. Well, so there you go. Yeah, that's unfortunate. So we're not going to see another Rocket Lab launch for a little while. And hopefully whatever it is that they find, hopefully it's like software. Oh, Daryl says no joke.
He was not being facetious.
Yeah, hopefully it'll just be something like software and not like they don't have to go back and redo a bunch of stuff because they did mention that they already have some boosters that are in production. Actually, it wasn't a booster issue; it was a second stage issue.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it was. I think somebody mentioned a possibility of it having to do with the hot swap. Maybe one of their batteries was decaying faster than it should have because what makes Electron different is their turbopumps are powered by batteries, not like typically, and I can't explain this as well as Scott Manley, but typically you have a little bit of fuel and oxidizer going off into another little combustion chamber that is used to spin up your turbopump, which is then used to jam the fuel into the combustion chamber, the main combustion. Yes. Is that right? Something like that?
Yes. So basically, it's going to go through the nozzles, which I'll find a really cool picture of the nozzle, like the inside of the actual nozzle plate that sprays the fuel and oxidizer down. That has like 80 heads on it, but it it requires a lot of back pressure to get through that plate, and that's where you need the turbo pump. Their turbo pump being battery operated means it's heavier, so they don't get as much weight to orbit, but they're a small launch provider anyway. They're aiming at CubeSats.
Yeah. So I'm not laughing at you at all. I just saw Daryl say, "I think we need it to be drawn for us." I can't draw. I can't draw an engine. That's why I'm Googling.
There's a diagram there.
There's
a great diagram.
There will be a diagram, Harry. There will be.
I will say real quick, Zach. I will say real quick. Great article you wrote the other day with the iPhone article. Man, that was a great article that he wrote up. If you guys haven't had a chance to check that article out, it's good stuff, man.
I will. I will definitely check that out because I'm a public beta tester. Every time that new iOS comes out, I want to try it out, and especially this one. There were some features that I'm excited about.
Is it out yet?
No, not the public beta.
Oh.
The beta is, but not the public one. But picture in picture.
Yeah, he actually did the article with Michael Caine's remote shot that he was able to get with his 7 Plus, I think it was.
Oh,
I think
that's
it was
right. Yeah, it was 8 Plus. Yeah.
8 Plus.
I saw him. Man, I saw him setting that up, and I was like, dude, because John Krause did that one time with his iPhone, and I asked him. I think I asked him like openly on Twitter, like, how did you trigger that, dude? And he just like gave me a winky face with a cool emoji or something. And
Kane figured it out.
Yeah, I talked to Kane, and I won't reveal the secret because I don't know if he wants to tell people how he did it, then that's fine. But it's very interesting. You can take a picture of a rocket or use your iPhone as a remote camera. I don't know. I'm thinking about trying. I have an 8 Plus myself. So I've thought about trying to leave it out there. It's kind of tricky because you want one of those opportunities where you're setting the remote and then the launch isn't like the next day. I mean, you can, I guess, if you got a big enough battery backup, but
hours.
It's really cool.
Hours.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't have access to my horse because I'm on my phone.
Okay. So just do your best impression.
Thanks for taking that one for me.
Okay.
He took the leads.
What is picture in picture?
So now it's going to be possible on the new iOS when you say, I don't know if it's going to work for YouTube because YouTube specifically has a service so that you can continue listening to a video even if you leave the app. But say you're watching a video on your browser and you leave the browser, that picture, the video will stay in the corner of your screen while you're doing other things on your phone. So you can,
neat.
yeah.
Oh, you mean that thing that's been on Android for 10 years?
I knew somebody was going to say that.
Yeah, I did have that capability at one point.
But Apple's going to perfect it.
Yeah, that's always the case.
After they do, it takes them some time.
It's funny. I've never had an Android, and every time I get excited about a feature, someone's like, "Yeah, you could do that on Android like forever." Like, all right, it was probably clunky. Okay, this is going to be smooth. I can move it to anywhere I want in the screen.
You can do it on Android. You just won't look as cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I look perfectly fine and unsheepalish if I don't have an iPhone.
Sheepalish.
What did you just call us?
Hey, I like a reliable phone.
Yes.
Android's not reliable. They got a lot of good features.
Man,
every Android I've had is not a reliable phone.
Nope. My Android sucks, and it has screen burn-in too, man. I got all kinds of screen burn-in right now. I hate it, man.
Yeah, I mean, people that have had Androids for a while always have problems with them, and iPhones, they continue to provide updates for them for a long time. Obviously, at some point, they've got to stop supporting them, but they continue to provide the new operating system to older phones for a long time. Whereas with Android, they put out new versions, and hopefully it's available for your specific model.
If you know how to like not brick your phone when you root it, you don't have to worry about that.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to root my phone. I explored jailbreaking a long time ago when I had a 3G, and it was only to get a few features that I couldn't get, but now I can have those features. Like it was like backgrounding and stuff, you know. It was stuff that just wasn't available yet. But anyway,
Well, it's a preview for our next podcast, Apple Talk.
yeah.
I won't be on that one.
Okay, so
We can get Zach on there.
Yeah, we probably
He'll
could.
be very knowledgeable in that area.
He probably already has one, actually.
Hmm.
Oh, Zach said so far it works with YouTube on Safari. So if you go to YouTube through your browser, it'll work.
Well, YouTube will figure out how to shut that down.
Yeah, I know. Because they do now.
Like, you gotta pay for red.
As it is now, you can continue to play the audio from a video after you lock your phone. It'll pause it, but then you wake up the lock screen and hit play, and it'll play that audio if you're playing something from a browser. YouTube, even if you do it through the browser, will not do that. All right. So you guys may have been following the latest Starlink launch. It will, if it ever goes, it's going to be the 10th batch. So we were out there the other day setting remotes. We ended up having to pick up those remotes. This will be a fifth flight booster, and
Nice.
you'd think it'd be cleaner with how many times it's been scrubbed.
Ba-dum-bum. Hey, where is that? Ow. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why was it scrubbed this week?
Daryl? This week it was the weather. But that's it.
I was
That
waiting
sounds
to
like
use
4
that.
o'clock right there.
And in a slight change of pace, I'm not sure they've ever done this, but they announced that they were standing down, but then they said that they were going to continue down to T-1 minute, just as like practice or data collection or whatever. I don't know. It almost makes you wonder if like these fifth flight boosters, like they're getting a little long in the tooth, you know, and they need more data from them. Because, you know, they had the issue, the original launch attempt, which was like 2 weeks ago. They didn't say what the issue was. They just said that the teams needed more time to assess things, you know, pre-flight checks and stuff. So as of right now, it's scheduled for Saturday at 10. Shoot, what's time?
24.
10:24.
I believe so. 10:24.
24? No, I thought it was 54.
54? 10 something.
We have the power. Someone's going to beat us.
I
to
made
it.
the event. You think I'd
And you're
remember?
guessing.
Someone's going to
10:54. 54.
Huh?
I knew
10,
there was
yeah.
a 4 in there.
10:45.
10:54.
10:54.
Yeah. So
Oh, yeah, that's right. I got to update that one.
so at this point, I'm just ready for this rocket to be gone. I'm not going to get to go out to do remotes probably unless some kind of miracle happens and somebody just shows up and it's like, hey, I want to work for you. But that's okay. I'm just ready for this one to be gone and get on with the next mission myself.
What, Tuesday?
Yeah. Well, yeah, actually, and I have to figure out if like what time of day that one's going to be, and if the remotes are going to be that morning or if it's going to be the day before. But they got to do a static fire. They don't usually release the schedule until after the static fire.
I was driving from down south from Fort Pierce, and there was a billboard, and it said, "Rockets launching monthly at the Space Coast." Big old
Monthly,
billboard.
yeah, fucking.
I was like,
Weekly.
"Man, that's a good billboard."
Yeah, it's weekly now almost. I mean, when's the last week that we didn't have a launch attempt? You know, maybe we didn't actually get the launch, but it's been a while.
Been a hot minute.
Okay, so big news came out this week that the Perseverance has been mated to the Atlas V rocket. And this is obviously a big step towards launch.
I light that candle.
Yeah, man. Right now they're targeting the 30th, and they have another
15
days after that. Well, there's 31 days in July, so 16 days.
They might get 16, yeah.
Yeah.
Per their original schedule, they get 12 days after that attempt, but they said they can push it out another, like 3 or 4 days?
4 days. And I think, well, let's see. I figured out, it's in this article. I think it's in here. They mention why. Yeah, okay, so previously designated August 11, end of the launch period. NASA and United Launch Alliance flight teams were able to provide those extra days after final weights of both the spacecraft and launch vehicle became available. So once they had the actual mass, then they were able to be like, okay, well, we can go a couple extra days and still make it. Which
Yeah.
I'm almost upset that that I found this in this article because, and I haven't told you guys this, but I did get. I've been trying to get Tory Bruno on the show. I know I told you guys this, but not like whoever's listening. I've been trying, and I've been in touch with the PR department with ULA, and Heather is her name, and she said that obviously Tory's a busy guy, so that she may not be able to get us Tory, but would we be okay with someone else that's knowledgeable?
Hey,
And I said,
it's fine.
I said, yeah, absolutely. As long as they're knowledgeable of the like mission specific stuff with Perseverance, and if it's okay, maybe we can talk about Vulcan if that's allowed. But Becca had the bright idea that maybe we should suggest just when is Tory available, and we could record the conversation and then air it on the normal show night. So that was the last email I sent to her earlier today, and she's been back in touch. Like I don't think this is going to turn into one of those, oh, we didn't hear back and nothing ever happened. Like she's been reaching out to me, asking me questions about just about the show and stuff. So we should have somebody, and it'll either be next week or the week after, because she suggested either the 16th or the 23rd. So that should be either next week or the week after. And I said that's fine as long as it's before Perseverance launches, because afterwards it's kind of moot. And that was going to be one of the questions I would ask, and I may still, because it's probably better to hear the professional talk about it. How were you able to extend? And I want to ask about, like, you're only using 4 solids. Why not just throw a 5th one on there? And, could you extend the window if you did that? And they'd probably explain how it's too late you can't really make changes like that that late in the game.
Well, they need to explain that? No, it would be too late in the game.
Would it? They're strap-on boosters. You just throw them on there. I don't know.
I think there's some engineering plans that has to be done.
Well, I have another bright idea
Someone's got to make a diagram.
that might give us an advantage. And what we should do is we should go through all of our old videos and take all the clips of me playing the horse sound and turn it into one video, and then just send that with no explanation whatsoever.
Send it straight to Tory. He likes horses.
Crazy. You want to go put a horse head on his bed next?
I'm not trying to be creepy, just a little weird.
He'll be like, yes, I'll make myself available. Yeah.
They have horse sounds. I'll be there.
Right. Yeah, that would be incredible. Horses. I mean, and really, it's because Tory is just so knowledgeable, and I'm sure whoever they get will be knowledgeable as well. And I'm looking forward to being able to tell you guys, who we've got and when it's going to be, because that'll be a cool show to talk to somebody. That'll be like the first like official person, like guest, other than. Huh?
A big name?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, so that's so Perseverance is on top of the rocket. Exciting.
Yay.
And also in Mars news, we do have posted by Eric Berger, Sci Guy Space on Twitter. We have a webcast that we can watch of the United Arab Emirates Hope Mars mission. It's going to launch on a Japanese H-2A rocket, and that's on the 14th. So if you're into Mars, make sure you go and bookmark this. Right now, you could go to Eric Berger's Twitter, and you don't have to scroll down too far to find the link. So yeah, we'll be watching that. And that's next Tuesday, by the way. And it's like 4:30, I think, is on the when. Well, here I'll click on this. Oh shoot. Okay, yeah, at 4:30 p.m. and I'm assuming that's local time to me, like Eastern time. I'm assuming. Surely YouTube has that figured out.
Yes, because the graphic there says it's Wednesday at 5:30.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, if I had just looked at that.
Just look at the screen.
That's
We
why
got
you're
you,
here. Yeah, so
4 days.
there you go. There's your link. What else we got? Okay, I want to talk about this dang old comet.
Dang old.
And not the kind that makes your teeth turn green. Look, I make this reference as if it's something people know. And it might just be something that my mom and my aunt did when I was little and nobody else knows about it. But they would sing the Comet song, and it's to a popular tune. It goes, Comet, it makes your teeth turn green. Comet, it tastes like Vaseline. Comet, it makes you vomit. So won't you comet and vomit with me?
All right.
Yeah.
That was
Wasn't it that
impressive.
that hot dog song or something? Oscar Mayer. That's the Oscar Mayer song.
That's not the Oscar Mayer song.
No, it's not. What song is that?
That's the Bridge Over the River Kwai, the General's March.
But I thought I could have swore there's an old commercial of Oscar Mayer that's in that same tune.
You solo on that one, man.
Yeah, I want to say that you singing it's the first time I ever heard it.
I never heard that.
Yeah, I don't know. Why would you put cleaner in your mouth?
Well, it's a great song.
Like, it's
And I can never remember if it tastes like Vaseline or gasoline.
I
See,
think
this
it's
Probably
gasoline.
gasoline.
Probably
Tide
gasoline.
Pod challenge back in the day.
Yeah,
you know
this
what I'm
is-
saying? Like,
Old school Tide Pods, yo. This is
There you
back
go.
back before.
Well, Steve,
You know-
don't give up. Just keep singing it.
It'll catch on.
Singing it.
Make
Every
it
time
a
you
thing.
clean your house.
It's
I'm gonna pull that audio. I want to have that on hand, just so you know.
I'll write the blackmail.
That's gonna be my project after the show.
Okay.
as long as you love it, you know.
I'm gonna make it my ringtone.
Oh, I might do that too.
I'll send you
man.
the MP3.
I'll take it.
We're all gonna have that as our ringtone.
I really appreciate everyone's support. Yeah, so
Okay, brother, we're here for you.
Don't eat Comet, folks. You will go to the hospital.
You will vomit.
You will vomit, and you probably have some kind of repercussions from it. You know.
Yeah,
Well,
you get
there's
COVID while you're
nothing-
there.
There's nothing in that song that sounds like enticing about eating Comet. It's like it's all the bad things that are going to happen. It's going to taste awful.
yeah, it's more a warning.
It's gonna make your teeth turn green.
Yeah,
Maybe
you
you
don't
want,
want that.
green teeth.
It tastes like gasoline.
Mm,
You're gonna throw
It
up.
makes you vomit.
yeah.
So won't you comment and vomit with me?
Oh man.
I want to know I want to see who was the first person to try it
Steve-O.
and why.
Must have been me. I don't know. They must have wrote that song about me.
Mm.
Yeah.
I-
Like Steven's in the Comet again.
Gotta start hiding it. Can't leave it under the counter.
Dang it! I just told him about that.
I told him it tastes like gasoline.
He's eating it again.
He's like, I like the smell of it.
These aren't
I
pixie
think
sticks,
Matthew Jordan's
Steven.
dying over there. He didn't turn his mic off.
All right, let's talk about actual comments.
Okay.
So
not the reindeer either, right?
no, no.
Okay.
Well, how does that one go? How does that song go?
Is there a song?
Well,
Or you mean the
it's-
whole Christmas song?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I ain't
Rudolph.
singing nothing. I'm not getting involved in this.
Prancer
Okay.
and Vixen.
It's Christmas in July.
And Cupid and Donner and Blitzen. Okay, so there is a comet named C2020F3 Neowise.
Yeah.
That's a handful.
And
Tom
Neowise would be the telescope that found it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Can anybody confirm? In 2020... No. Oh, sorry, Harry. That's a bummer. I didn't know you... Yeah, Harry says you can't see it from the southern hemisphere. I didn't realize that. I thought at some point it would come around. Oh, Daryl says in a few hours.
Yep, same here. I'll be out. I'll be going out in the AM. Be going out here soon.
Well, yeah, a few hours, I guess. But
Enjoying my bed.
I'm going to go out for... I don't know if tomorrow morning is the day. But actually, last night I was talking about it on mine and Becca's other show that we do with our friends, Verbal Assault. And I had something up. And it was talking about how the 11th is like the best day. I think it's maybe the closest approach to Earth or something like that. But they were suggesting the 11th being like a good time to look. And so, and that'll be Saturday morning. So I think Saturday morning might be the day that I go out and try to shoot it. I will show you my first and only attempt at ever shooting a comet because I've not been able to see any since then. And this is from March 15th of 2013. It's the Pan-STARRS comet. Not even sure what the designation is, it's been so long. But this was like shortly after I got my first camera and thought it'd be cool to shoot the comet. See how just blurry and garbage it is? I've learned a lot since then, and I'm really looking forward to trying to get, like, you can see, I don't know how well it comes across over the stream, but you can see blur even in the light on the moon. So basically I was doing a long exposure and I must have bumped the camera or something, who knows. So with more experience, hopefully I'll do something more like
People have been posting some incredible
shots. Dude, there's been some great shots.
Man, you see the ones with the guy got the trail with the color in it and everything?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like this. I mean, I don't have anything like this. This is awesome. Like, this is a great landscape to take a photo like that.
Yeah.
All I've got is the ocean. But man, look at this. Yeah, that is just gorgeous.
Yeah,
and this is so this shot right here makes me think that it's kind of big. Because it's hard to say because, like, okay, this shot of mine, this comet was very hard to find because it was so small in the sky and it was close to the horizon. And with photos, it's hard to know what their focal length is. I don't see anybody posting about what focal length they were at when they took a photo of this comet. Like, look at this. Oh man.
Well, if I'm looking at that picture compared to the picture that you were showing, it reminds me of when you explained how the moon sometimes looks bigger, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in comparison to things that you can tell the size of. And that other picture, you can see the rocks.
Right.
And so maybe that's that same concept.
It could be. But until I see it with my eyes, I can't possibly know how big it is in the night sky. I mean, this.
Well, comets could be any size, right? Like do they become something else if they get to, like, I don't know how they work.
That's
Your comet could be any size.
Yeah, they're basically asteroids, but they consist of ice, a lot more ice than what asteroids do. They're ice and rock and piles of.
And that's what makes it a comet is the ice.
Mm-hmm. I think
ice
so.
content, it burns off as it gets closer to the sun, which gives the comet its tail. And the tail will always face away from the sun.
Right, yeah. In fact, that is a good lead-in to diagram time. Pow, pow, pow.
Yeah.
All right, so I've already set up. I already set up the canvas. Let's see, what color should our? Let's see, we'll go red. All right, so this is the sun, as you can see.
Oh.
This is the
you
Earth.
already started this one.
Yeah. And actually, what's funny is I I did this diagram on Verbal Assault last night, and I guess when I shut down my computer, I didn't close this, and it opened back up, and bam, there it was.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't have to do anything. So comets come from way out there. Like they do orbit the sun, but they spend most of their time way out there. So
Oort cloud.
They like it cold.
Yeah, the Oort
So,
cloud.
like, if you're looking at the solar system, say the planets are in here. Out here would be the Kuiper belt, which is actually where Pluto exists, and then even further out, like say here, is where the Oort cloud would be.
Right.
It measures like almost a light year across. It's very, very, very large.
Yeah, and what's kind of interesting is it's a bubble around the solar system, right?
Mhm.
It's not a belt. It doesn't follow the normal orbital plane that most of the planets and the asteroids and all that stuff. It's all around. So comets can actually come from any direction. They can come from north of the sun or south of the sun or from any direction. And what we've learned in orbital mechanics, and thank you Kerbal Space Program, is when something has a really like a highly eccentric orbit, meaning that it comes really close to the thing that it's orbiting, but then it goes way far out there. Like it's like a huge like a stretched out oval, right?
A highly elliptical orbit.
Highly elliptical, yeah. It when it comes in close, it's going really fast, but then it slings back out, and the sun's gravity is still affecting it, right? And so as it's coming in, the sun is accelerating it, and once it loops around the sun and flings back out, and it's that momentum right there that makes it fling back out. But of course, it's not being impeded by anything, so nothing's slowing it down. So it's going to go basically right back to where it was. But as it's climbing out away from the sun, it's being decelerated, and so it spends a lot more time way out there than it does close to the sun. Now, as it gets close enough to the sun, let's say it gets here, wherever here is, and I know these comets they start to sort of activate at different points, I think, but it's probably mostly within the orbit of Mars at least, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so then the ice starts to sublimate, which means that it goes directly from a solid to a gas, and it starts to shoot off. Now there is pressure from the solar wind that's pushing that's what becomes its tail. This is all the ice being sublimated and breaking off, and if you picture the movie Armageddon, when they were, for whatever reason, they felt like they needed to get right behind the comet and fly through its tail for as long as possible. I don't think they needed to do that.
It's called a movie.
Well, I guess you're right. It is. I hadn't considered that.
It's more exciting if they're going through a whole bunch of random debris where it's just going in front of it and landing on me like, all right, we're all good.
Getting their antennas knocked off and everything. So there's
Horse noise.
Do what?
Horse noise.
Okay.
Why is it called a tail if it doesn't necessarily even have to be behind it at all ever?
I think it's just the way that it appears. What is that? That's not the technical term for it. I know the comets have a coma, and then they have. I'm waiting for Jordan to chime in on here.
Are you waiting for me?
Yeah. It's like
you're on the right track. It's the coma. It's like the coma would be the area where that sublimation is actually happening, and that tail is millions of miles long. It's not a short tail. It's millions of miles, maybe even 100 million miles long. So those tails are pretty cool. The comets always have tails. It's just the way they activate is from the heat from the sun. So if it has a less ice content, then that tail won't start forming until closer to the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And most comets nowadays that we've been discovering, because we now have better tools like Solar Observatory, the comets that we can observe from like SOHO and things like that, we see them and they fall directly into the sun. Like we're watching impacts into the sun.
Oh, impacts. I know a
Yeah.
lot of them burn up. Like a lot of
Oh, yeah,
times,
they're gonna burn up in the sun.
there's
Like,
been several that we've been waiting for. Like it'll come close to the sun, and then it's like, okay, it's rounding the sun. Let's see if it survives, if it makes it out the other side, and then it's not there anymore.
yeah.
Well, didn't they say this one? It was impressive because it actually had survived its pass by the sun. That's
Yeah.
why the tail looks as long as it does.
Yep. Yeah. It has already had its close approach, and this is where the diagram comes in, because not everyone understands this. There's a misconception that the tail follows the direction of the comet, and when it's coming in, sure, it it's falling this way and the tail is going out, but when it's going this direction, and even whenever it pops out this side, the tail is still going to be going away from the sun, because as those little particles break off, the solar wind is going to push it out just away from the sun. So that is why.
Looks like two squids.
So
going
it's
around
a
the sun.
regular tail for half the time, and it's a front tail for the rest of the time.
It
Yes.
switches around, becomes a whole
Yeah.
front tail.
It's like a mullet with comets.
Party in the back.
But it's not actually technically called a tail. It's called.
I don't
a comet.
know. I think
That's the only term I've ever heard.
Why
it
would
called.
they? But that's so misleading. That's why nobody knows that it's
right.
not going that direction, because they think a tail is following.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also another misconception is that like comets will move quickly across the sky, kind of like a meteor does, but the comet is not very close to Earth. I mean, they'll tell you when like the closest approach to the Earth will be and all that kind of stuff, but like this is the Earth out here, and its orbit is like way out here. Like you don't even see the other side of it. It's like and the comet doesn't come anywhere near the Earth, really. Like it doesn't come close to the moon or anything. Like it's not even within the distance of the moon, so it's not close. It is traveling very quickly, but not in a manner. It's just like you don't see planets moving across the sky. You can see Jupiter and Saturn and Mars in the night sky, and they are moving quickly, but not so fast that you actually can see them moving against the background of the stars. Now, if you were to take, well, the comet's not a great example, because I was going to say, if you were to take a picture of this comet and then a couple hours later take another, then you might see it move against the background of the stars, but you're not going to be able to see it because the sun's going to wash it out. But if you were to do that with the moon, if you took a picture of the moon, when it first rises, and then take another picture right before it sets, you would see a slight difference in where it is in relation to the background of the stars. And that's sort of kind of how it is with a comet. It's moving through the sky, but from our perspective, it doesn't seem to be moving that quickly. Although
It's not moving as quickly as you would think, because it might be 100 million miles away from us.
Exactly.
And we're looking at it. I mean, it's still within the solar system. I mean, you got to think the solar system is a ginormous place. We think about it as it's just a place where these 9 planets are, but it's a huge empty space that happens to have planets and a star in the middle of it. So these comets, they come and go, and they're they happen all the time. It's just, are they like this? Are they pretty?
Yeah, not always.
Yeah, didn't they say there's like a 30-minute window from the time it starts rising till the time when the sun washes it out? You have like 30 minutes.
Yeah, they say to start looking about an hour before sunrise, and then get what you can, because the sun is coming and it'll wash it out.
Yep, 30 minutes.
So that's the thing. Get out there, see yourself a comet, unless you live in the southern hemisphere. Sorry, Harry. But yeah, not everybody gets to see comets. The last good one I saw, like that one that I took a picture of, back then, I wouldn't call that a very good comet. It was not very bright, wasn't very big. The first comet I saw was Hale-Bopp. That was the one you guys remember with Heaven's Gate.
Yeah. One of my professors in college, my orbital mechanics professor, was Nathan Hale. He was the guy who found the Hale-Bopp comet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Wow. That was the first thing I ever saw through a telescope, and the same night saw the moon through a telescope for the first time. And
Nice.
yeah, so that was
That's where the hooks go in, right?
yeah,
Right.
yeah. That was and I always think back to that. You know, anytime like if I've got the telescope out and show people the moon because it's incredible. I remember being completely dumbfounded seeing the moon through a telescope for the first time. Yeah, it hooks you in.
I remember it too. It was in the work parking lot at the place we used to work in Tennessee, and it was your telescope, and I looked at the moon.
Yep. And probably Jupiter if it was up, and Saturn.
Yeah, there was probably some specific reason you had it that night. Not, there had to have been some kind of reason.
I think maybe I just had it in my car and was like, "Hey, you guys want to look through the telescope?
Want to see a moon?
See that moon?"
That's not a moon.
Seth, that's actually going to be the new T-shirt that we're making just for you.
What's that?
The unholy drawing on the stream.
The unholy drawing. Why is
Unholy.
What's unholy? Is that unholy?
We were actually summoning the Demon Lord Baal.
Well,
He'll be at your house about 2:30, Seth,
With a front tail.
with a front tail.
And a back tail. Take that.
okay, so this is not really related, but it has to do with like atmospheric distortion and stuff like that. I just thought this was a really cool post. Someone took this video, or it might just be a bunch of still images put together, of the space station flying over. If you can believe it, it is possible. You can get these mounts for telescopes, and you can program them to follow the space station across the sky. Now, the learning opportunity in this is that you see how hazy it looks, and then when it gets straight above, it gets clear, and then as it goes away, it gets hazy and distorted again. And that's sort of an illustration for how atmospheric distortion works, because as the space station is low on the horizon, actually, this might be another good diagram right here, y'all.
Oh boy.
Here, let's see here.
Wow,
Can I,
two
Two in one show?
2 in 1, y'all.
I don't know if everyone can handle it. I don't know.
I don't know if I can. How do I just get a new one? Well,
File, new.
Yeah, that'd be what I would do.
yeah, but I'm worried I'm going to lose this work of art.
You can save
They'll
it
give
right
you
there.
the
Look at
option.
that.
Save it. Okay.
Save it, get that
Where's it going?
I gotta
Untitled.
name it.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to name it. Okay. So we need shapes. We got shapes, y'all. We got shapes. Okay, I need like a big circle. That's not really big enough. Bear with me.
What kind of bear?
Perfection takes time.
Wait, am I still showing this? I don't know. Okay, good. All right, so let's get a brush. I should probably have done another circle, right? I should do another circle, and I'll tell you why.
Make do a circle on the inside that's blue.
Happy little circles.
There you go. You're so smart. Oh.
That's not inside, bro.
Now
Okay,
it
there
is.
you go.
There. Okay. Quickly. It's not a perfect circle, but it's close.
It's not a bad band.
Oh, perfect circle. Oh man, great band. All right. Let's see, we'll get that. All right. So say you're standing here, and the space station is over here. This distance of atmosphere that you're looking through is much longer than when the space station gets here and you're just looking straight up. So if we could measure that, it would be, I don't know, like 100 pixels.
A long ways.
100 pixels or something. And this would probably be like 20 pixels, So as the space station's rising, coming up over you, you're looking through less atmosphere. And then as it, gets over here, then you're looking through more atmosphere again. So bam, that's how that works. Diagrams everywhere. All right.
That's called Rayleigh distortion, by the way.
It's called what now?
Rayleigh distortion.
Rayleigh?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, Rayleigh.
I see what you did there.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Oh, couldn't see the top of. Yeah, sorry, I'd expanded it up. Well, you got the picture.
That's why Keegan was standing up. He was trying to peek over the top.
Oh. All right. So ULA took delivery. We talked about this last week, I think. They took delivery of the first BE4, not actual flight hardware, but I just thought that was interesting and exciting. This is just a Tory time lapse that Tory posted, and it seemed like there was something else to go along with that, but maybe not. I would like to ask them about this. Like, what makes, I don't know how much detail they'll go into, whoever our guest happens to be, but what is it that makes it not actual flight hardware? You know,
They still have miniaturization that can take place in all that piping and everything at the top, all the actual like support equipment. Like, it's not going to look quite as messy when it's in a final configuration. This is just, hey, we've thrown everything that needs to be on there, and then they will repackage it, and the engineers will figure out how to make it all fit into a prettier package.
Yeah. So they're making sure bolts line up and stuff like that, basically.
Yeah.
It's kind of like fit checks. All right. Well, there you go. Congratulations, Tory. You got your first BE4.
Heck yeah.
And Johnson Space Center released some photos. This is Crew 1. So this will be the crew that's launching on the Dragon no earlier than early September is what we're talking about right now. It'd probably be a little later than that. So they're just doing some training, you know, just wanted to show these photos. Now, speaking of commercial crew, they did a press conference the other day about Starliner and released some of their findings. And Michael Baylor was doing a great job posting updates about it. And the first update is very interesting. There wasn't a Boeing representative there. Isn't that odd?
Get the head in the sand. Stay away from that.
Like, yeah, we don't really want to talk about it. So they had 61 recommendations, and there are now 80 recommendations after the full, I don't know, deep dive into everything. They're probably checking systems that didn't have anything to do with the failure.
Oh yeah, they're going through every single piece of data that came back. That's why these things take a longer time, is because they're going through millisecond by millisecond through the data to see what's happening and when.
Right. So they're saying that there is still a chance that they're going to launch their second go of this, the orbital flight test.
OFT2 is what they're calling it.
Yeah, OFT2, which, man, that's kind of a, like a gut punch, right? Every time someone says OFT2, that it's going to remind them that they had to redo the test that they should not have had to redo.
It's a punch to the jewels. That's what it is.
Yeah. So NASA, Steve Stitch acknowledged that NASA should have had better oversight over Boeing. And Loiters added that it was an uncrewed demonstration mission, and that NASA's oversight priority was where the crew were involved on this mission, the International Space Station. So I guess she's kind of saying that we were focused on what is happening now and not what's coming in the future. I don't know. That kind of seems kind of PR-ish.
I mean, NASA, she's right. Their concern is crew. If it's not a crew operation, that's Boeing's baby.
Yeah.
That's ULA's thing. That's Boeing's thing. And NASA, they'll give what support they can, but they are, especially with commercial crew, they're trying to be as hands-off as they possibly can to let the free market decide what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's part of the plan, is like they wanted to give top-level requirements of what the spacecraft has to be able to do, but let the companies build it themselves. Now, they did mention
way too much trust in Boeing being a legacy builder. I think that's kind of part of NASA's failure, is having that level of trust in Boeing, but not necessarily having that level of trust in someone like SpaceX who's just coming up. I understand what that trust is earned, but that trust also needs to be earned repeatedly.
Yeah, and they did mention that that they actually had they had given more oversight to SpaceX because they're the new kid in town, and they probably should have had the same oversight at Boeing. Even
They
though
absolutely should have, and they should have gotten equal uh, money out of the reward for
the contract.
the actual contract.
Well, but that was one of those
I mean,
like
Boeing
silent.
got twice as much, man.
Right, but I think the reason that was a justification was they both bid silently. They didn't know what each other was bidding, and it was like, this is what we want to do, and this is our asking price. And I don't think there was any negotiation. Well, I'm assuming there was no negotiation.
No, when you do those things, you just submit your request, and this is how much money, and this is what we're going to be able to accomplish with product X. When they do those kinds of things, it's called cost plus. They ask for cost of the article plus a small percentage as like earnings on that article that they make. And this is the way that NASA's worked for years. Now they're finally getting away with it with commercial crew, but Boeing itself is set up for cost plus. So Boeing is such a large company because everything is done cost plus. It's cost plus however much it costs to make or however much you're going to make on the item. So the way that typically goes is that you end up charging way too much for the item.
Right.
And that's where Boeing, I think, is kind of falling behind SpaceX in that they're saying, oh, well, we've got to make this X amount of profit, and this is how much it's going to cost. So this is the total cost that we're going to get. And SpaceX is saying, this is how much it's going to cost us to make it, and we're not worried about profits.
Yeah. And so cost plus makes a lot of sense when you're building something brand new that never been built and you have no idea really how much it's going to cost. It makes a lot of sense because then the contract is, okay, whatever it costs, we'll give you a percentage on top of that just so you have, a little bit of profit to incentivize. But when I would think that when you're building something that has been built before, you can sort of quantify. And that's what they're doing. They're moving more towards like fixed contracts with a lot of this stuff. I don't know. I wonder if like the Mars rovers, are those cost plus contracts?
No, those are not done cost plus. Those are fully done through whatever agency. So like Mars rover is made by JPL, right? So Jet Propulsion Laboratory says we want to make this, and then bids come in on, well, we can build this piece of hardware and we can supply you with this computer system or this computer system. But those are all come from other researchers who are also working on Mars science.
Okay.
Or word of the day, Aeolian science.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, so there you go. There's, more updates. I'm sure there's a lot of great articles out there. If you're interested in what these recommendations are and stuff, I'm sure Eric Berger, there's probably a NASA spaceflight article about it. It is a bummer. We're kind of poking at Boeing, but it's a bummer that they're not flying already. I feel for those engineers. I know they've worked hard. Somebody did point out the fact that SpaceX has this advantage where they own the rocket and the spacecraft, so it's no big deal for them to integrate their computers together and run the test of them working together. Whereas with Boeing and ULA, while ULA is made up partly of Boeing, but it's kind of its own thing now, and so to integrate those two computers together and run that test, it's a little more difficult. What did Seth say? He said, I don't believe recommendations been bug or design fixes. Wait, I mean, not been. Oh, I don't believe recommendations mean bug or design fixes. It means changes to the process the project is managed. It's AS 9100 certification requirement that my company has to do as well. All right, cool. Astro Guy's got to go. Sorry, Astro Guy. Peace out to you.
Bye.
Yeah, the AS 9100 the certifications are a very stringent set of certifications for building and producing things to go to space.
I am so glad you're here.
I know none of that.
Yeah. Okay, and more kind of the political side of space. The House Appropriations Committee released their budget, and this is just one step in the process of getting to that final budget of whatever NASA will get. The main takeaway is whatever NASA asked for regarding Artemis, they got something, but they did not get what they asked for. They got like half or less, it seems. One of the most interesting parts of
It's
it,
like when I go to the Burger King drive-thru.
hey, you got half of what you asked for, man. I mean, what? We still need you to pay for the whole thing, though.
What's kind of happening, especially along the lines of like congressional support, I think that Congress in general is seeing how effective programs like Commercial Crew and commercial launch services, and how that can be an effective way to spend less money on development and spend more money on the science. And Congress is trying to push NASA that way, because NASA's their bottom line says that they are a research organization. It doesn't say that NASA builds rockets and sends things into space. It says we are a space research organization.
Yeah.
If they can buy the rockets instead of having to spend, how much does SLS cost? Like $20 billion so far,
Yeah.
and they've only got like 3 planned missions. Like,
It's like
that's
$4 billion a
huge.
year, I think, is allocated for them.
It's incredibly expensive, and yeah, it's going to be a super heavy lift. But why do we need the super heavy lift when we could just use a Falcon Heavy or a Starship when that comes along?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or Vulcan or
ULA's Vulcan or
Omega even would be cheaper.
yeah, like there's many cheaper options than to develop an entire new rocket, which uses old parts from the space shuttle. Like the incessant need that NASA has to reuse all this stuff because they bought too much in the first place. It's maddening. It's maddening to think that this organization that in the 50s and the 60s, they were the premier government organization. Now they're, scraping the bottom of the barrel and trying to find what they can throw together to send things into space.
Yeah, I mean, well, they get like nothing for a budget.
Yeah, absolutely. But once again, you have to learn how to work within those budgets. Unfortunately, what ends up taking the biggest hits are their future programs 5-10 years down the line. Not so much stuff that we're going to see in the next 5 years, but stuff 5 or 10 years down the line is the stuff that takes the biggest hit when they start taking money away.
Yeah. One of the interesting things about this was that there has been a very minor in terms of word use, but major in terms of what it means. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration shall use the Space Launch System, if available, as the launch vehicle for the Jupiter-Europa missions, and plan for an orbiter launch no later than 2025 and a lander launch no later than 2027, which that's really cool. So if you don't know, Europa is one of Jupiter's moons that is an ice moon, but we are all but certain.
We know that they have liquid water there.
Right.
We had probes. So when we first saw Europa, we just saw this ball in the sky. And Galileo saw Europa, 400 years ago.
Yeah.
So we just saw this ball in the sky. Well, when we started actually exploring the area around Jupiter, we started seeing these jets coming off of Europa. And we were like, hey, what's that? That's very interesting. Well, using a spectroscope and a spectrograph of those jets, we actually were able to figure out, it's liquid water. So Europa has this ice shell that's, maybe 100 miles thick in some areas. And underneath that is an ocean of liquid water. Well, everything we know about life says that the number one thing you need is liquid water.
Mm-hmm.
If you have liquid water, life can and will develop.
Yep.
That's what we want to do. The next step in research into astrobiology is let's go to Europa. Let's check it out. Let's see if life has actually evolved there in that ocean. It could even just be microbes. But if we see something, we know we are not some cosmic mistake.
Right. And the reason that we think that it has the energy is because there's tidal forces as Europa is orbiting around Jupiter. Jupiter is huge and it has a huge gravitational field, and as Europa gets closer and further, because it's not a perfectly circular orbit, it gets closer and further at different times, and that has a squeezing and stretching.
It kind of gets kneaded like pizza dough.
Right, and that inputs energy into the planet. Right. And so there could be, just like we have in some of the deepest parts of the ocean here, we have these vents that are shooting out warm water, and there is life all around these vents. So what we know here is anytime there's water and there's energy and, all these like organic chemicals and stuff, then there is life. Life will find a way.
All right there, Dr. Ian Malcolm.
Yes, thank you. So anything involving Europa is super exciting to me, and my fear is that it's just going to keep getting pushed back, and then we're not going to go. Now,
it'll be 50 years from now for the next 50 years, just like Mars has been. We're 50 years from walking on Mars since the 1950s.
Right. Casey Dreyer, who is he's with the Planetary Society, he posted this, and it's got the direct diagram here. That's using SLS. So SLS is so powerful that it can get this there. Let's see, it's August of 2024, and then arrival in March of 2027. So that's less than 3 years, right? Yeah. It's like 2.5 years. If you use something else, then you could launch in October of 2024, and you wouldn't get there until April of 2030. Now that it does take longer, but with all the delays with SLS,
there's an Earth orbit assist. There's a Mars orbit assist. In the mega one that they're showing on the bottom picture there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of orbital assists because it will lack the kind of power that SLS is going to have. But if you launch this on something like a Starship, which might not be quite as powerful as SLS, still a very powerful craft, and you're
refuel
still
it.
Yeah,
refuel it. You might get there faster.
Yeah, launch it to space, and then have it leave from near Earth orbit.
The one thing though, the catch in this is that they need to make their decision by the end of this year on what launch vehicle they're going to use.
Mm-hmm.
SLS with some Falcon Heavy for boosters. There you go.
That would be sexy though.
Yeah.
I would be all about going out there to see that one.
Yeah. So they've got to make a decision on their launch vehicle by the end of the year. So in order for them to even consider Starship, there's got to be a lot more progress with Starship.
I saw there was some progress happening at Boca Chica. They have already on the schedule 150-meter hop.
Do they?
For this month, yeah. Going through the Twitter feeds today, I saw that.
Yep.
Is that it's already, they have the days marked off that they're available to do that. It's like 5 days.
What are they on, SN5?
5 is the launch article, yeah.
If it survives.
As I say, are they going to upgrade their fire suppression system?
It's gotta make it through the test, all the testing, But they do have a Raptor out there. I don't know. I don't think it's actually installed yet, but they do have one out there. Yeah. So there you go. Europa. We need Europa, and of course Enceladus too. Don't forget about Enceladus, but it's a little further out. That's Enceladus is around Saturn,
Yes.
but it's kind of the same story with Enceladus. It's an ice moon with liquid ocean. In fact, Europa supposedly has more water than Earth.
Yes.
So we just lost Becca.
Uh-oh.
Should
Should I go back and work?
Well, she's still got her email. We have gone long. I didn't realize we went so long.
Yeah, I was going to. Yeah, over.
All right. Well, let's round this out with we had an arrival on what day was that? July 5th. So Sunday.
It's the rocket boat.
So Matt was out there all day waiting on this boat. What'd you do? Can you?
I think Matt fell asleep.
Yeah, I don't know if he can hear me.
What?
Yeah, I was on Sunday. It was just the boat came in.
All right, sounds great.
That's
Hey,
super
look, he
exciting.
took pictures.
I'm glad you were out there for it and took pictures and stuff.
Yeah, he was hanging out at the top of Exploration Tower and watching. We were watching the radar. For some reason, there was an issue. Like he was using the same app I was, Marine Traffic, and on Android, it was giving him old data. It was like 9 hours old, wasn't it? Like, cause you sent me that screenshot, and I was like, "What app is that?" You said it was Marine Traffic, but then what I had on mine was it was updating like by the minute, and it was showing exactly where Rocket Ship was.
Yeah, it was like a 9 hour difference.
Yeah, that was really weird. Super hot day. Stopped by Gators to get something to eat, and then I was like, "Oh, it's at this place. It's like right out from Patrick." And then he like left, and then I was like, "No, I think you got time to eat." He's like, I just left."
I was like, dang it. Well, I asked the girl when I came in. I was like, I need to ask the cook what's the time frame for getting something. She's like, oh, it's gonna be about 20 minutes. I was like, yeah, I don't have that kind of time. I had that kind of time.
Yeah, totally had that kind of time. Yeah, because what time did you get out there?
I was out there for a while.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you what time I got out there. I was out there for a while, but it was just cool to finally see it, man. I've been trying to catch that boat for a while, man. I really have. I've been really trying to. And yeah, granted, everybody be like, "Oh, it's just a boat." Yeah, it's not that interesting, but if you're really into this stuff, that's an amazing boat.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So
it's really cool, man. Like,
yeah, being able to catch it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, Rocket Ship, Port Canaveral, Florida. That's awesome.
Yep.
And then next day or a couple days later, they revealed what was inside, and I think this is something you had speculated about, right, Matt?
Mm-hmm.
That
Yep,
it
I was like,
it was the Atlas. Did you say? I know you were saying you think it's an Atlas. I had heard some speculation, and I never remember where it comes from. But were you saying you thought it might have been Enroll?
yeah, I was like, it's definitely some boosters, some Atlas 5 boosters, but of course, when you're covering this kind of stuff, you never want to say like I know for sure, unless you really do know for sure, because saying stuff like that gets you in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I've learned after covering this stuff for a while is, speculating and saying like, oh, I know for sure. That's like, no, that gets you in trouble. So best to use stuff like I think there might be some boosters in there. You know what I mean? I'm not for sure, but it's looking likely that there's some boosters in there. So I was right. It looks like some Atlas, first stage, and it looks like a Centaur second stage. There is what it looks like we're unloading.
Yeah, I mean, anytime Rocket Ship shows up, it's a pretty good bet that there's a rocket on board, but it hasn't always been the case. Well, maybe it has been, but it's not that they're actually I think one time they had Delta Heavy boosters in there, but that wasn't meant for here. It was like they were dropping something off, and then they were taking Delta Heavy out to Vandenberg or something like that. I can't remember.
Yep, that was actually the last time Rocket Ship was in town, because Ryan Bill got some good pictures of them actually taking the boosters out and then putting them back in.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that would be nice to be able to see them unload that. I'd like to do some time lapse of it or something, or just video.
being on top of Exploration Tower is actually a really good vantage point of seeing them unload all that stuff. And I thought about, but it was just, that was that Sunday, and they ended up, doing it the next day anyways.
Yeah, I don't think they usually get. I think one time they opened it up and started unloading it pretty quick, but I don't think they typically do that.
Yeah, the weather was not good.
Yeah.
As soon as I got down and went back into my car is when the sky opened up.
Yeah. Well, folks, anybody have anything to add? Anything we missed, omitted? I think we've got ourselves a show. We lost
Seems
Becca.
like-
Becca probably did have to go back in to work, but that's all right. Everybody in chat, thanks for being there. Seth, Daryl, Astro Guy. Let's see, who else was there? It was Zach, Carlos. Yeah, thanks everybody for being there. That's another show in the bag, and follow the Twitter. We should know if the ULA representative is going to be on next week. We should hopefully know semi soon, maybe in the next few days, who that's going to be. And so we'll let you know on Twitter. And till then, we'll see ya.
Shutdown sequence initiated. Shutting down.